Okay. And this is going to look like the absolute value of x plus a is greater than or equal to b, just like the other form, but this time our sign changed. Once we've identified it as that form, we're going to rewrite in its two different forms, or its two different inequalities. So in the first inequality, we drop the absolute value bars. We keep the sign the same, and we keep the sign of b the same. In the second, so we have it written as this inequality, and we need one more inequality. When we do the second inequality, we flip the sign, okay? So we make it a less than or equal to, and we make b negative, okay? So the thing here is that we flip the sign. The difference is that we flip the sign and we made b negative. Okay, so this is where we flip. Okay, so the first one, everything stays the same, and the second one we flip. And the last step is to solve for x. Okay, what questions do you guys have about form 2? Is everybody understanding the way we break this up into the two different inequalities each time? Okay, if there are no questions on form 2, we're going to move on to form 3. Form 3 is less than, strictly less than. Okay, this is going to look like the absolute value of x plus a strictly less than b. So we're having a less than sign this time. We need to break it up into its two forms. So we're going to rewrite. In the first form, we drop the absolute value. We have x plus a is less than b. We keep the sign the same. We keep the sign of b the same. And in the second one, we flip the sign and we flip the value of b. Okay, so the thing that changed here is the flipping in the second inequality. Okay, and just like the other two, our last step is to solve for x. Okay, I'm sure you can guess what form 4 is. Does anybody have a guess?
Less than or equal to.
There you go. Very good. Thank you very much. We have less than or equal to. Okay, and it's just like all the other forms, but we're going to have a less than or equal to sign. And just like the other ones, we rewrite. And can I have a volunteer to tell me how I will rewrite my absolute value into two different inequalities?
X plus a is less than or equal to b, and x plus a is greater than or equal to negative b.
Perfect. Excellent work. That was not correct.
Yeah.
Good job, Amaya. Thank you. Okay, so Amaya did this correct. Oops, I spelled flip wrong. Let me fix this. Flip. So first, Amaya broke it up so that we have x plus a is less than or equal to b. And our second inequality is x plus a is greater than or equal to negative b. Very good, thank you. Okay, so these are our 4 different forms. So step 1 in solving these inequalities is to isolate our absolute value. Once we have it isolated, in step 2, you will pick which form of our inequality. So basically identify which inequality symbol we use, then you will split it up into its 2 inequalities and you'll solve for x. Okay, what questions do you guys have on those 4 forms before we move on to examples? Okay, if there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and move on to an example. Actually, there's one little statement that I want to put at the bottom. Oh, I forgot to write. Then solve for x. Not that you wouldn't have known that. Okay, so at the bottom, I want to remind you, because some people forget. So when we set up, or when we pick the inequality with negative b, we flip our inequality sign. If you feel like that's really obvious, you don't have to write that. Let me move it so you can actually see it. Okay. But that is what we're doing in each of the forms. That was the highlighted section, so I'll highlight it the same color. Okay, that's all we did for those little sections. Okay, so moving on, we're going to do an example. So we have the absolute value of x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so Ayana, are you there? Ayana, are you still having Wi-Fi trouble maybe? Oh no. Zulabet?
Yes.
So do we need to do anything to isolate this absolute value, or is it already isolated?
We have to isolate it.
So it's already isolated. Good. So we don't have to do step 1. Step 1 is done. Which of the 4 forms is this absolute value inequality? Form 1, 2, 3, or 4?
2, form 2.
Yes, greater than or equal to. Good. So can you tell me how to rewrite this inequality? You want to split it up like that.
X minus 2 less than
Greater than or equal to, right?
Yeah.
First one. Okay. And then
What? Negative 1.
Positive 1, yeah. And then the next one, what will it be?
X minus 2 less than or equal to my negative 1.
Yeah, perfect. Good job. So we split it up into the 2 different inequalities. Okay. We have one with a greater than or equal to. We kept the sign of the 1. We flip the sign here, and then we move this to negative 1. Okay. The next step is to solve for x. So Shayla was not here. Annie was not here. Betsy.
Yes.
Can you solve each of these for me?
You add 1 on both sides.
Did you mean 2?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, we add 2 on both sides for both inequalities. And these guys cancel. What's 1 plus 2?
3.
Good. And then what's negative 1 plus 2?
1.
Yes. So less than or equal to 1. Okay, so we get our 2 different options here. And so now we want to put these on a number line to see what it looks like. So I have a value at 1, and then I have a value at 3. And I want values bigger than or equal to 3. Let me get some colors here so you guys can see. So for this one, we have a dot, and it's filled in at 3 because we have greater than or equal to. We want values bigger than or equal to 3, so we're going to move to the right. Okay. And then in the other one, we have x values less than or equal to 1. So I need a closed dot at 1 because it's still less than or equal to. And less than means we're going to move to the left. Okay, what questions do you guys have about that?
Can you move your paper up a little, please?
Oh, absolutely, yes, sorry. Okay, so we could have x values greater than or equal to 3, or x values less than or equal to 1. Those are our 2 possible answer ranges. Okay, both of those are answers. What questions do you guys have about that example?
Do the answers go in parentheses or do they stay like that?
Like this. You could totally write it like, so this is an option. You don't have to do this. You could do from negative infinity to 1, union, or I don't remember what we did in this class. We might have just said and 3 to infinity. So you could do it like that. If you wanted to, that's totally fine. But this is also an option if you just want to leave it like this.
Okay.
Thank you. What other questions do you guys have about this example? Okay, if there are no other questions on this example, we're going to go ahead and do example 2. Okay, I'm going to assume no other questions, so I'm going to flip my paper and do example 2. If you didn't get a chance to finish copying example 1, open up the document on Canvas. You should be able to see example 1 on there all written out. Okay, we're moving on to example 2. Ooh, the ladybug's in the way of the example 2, but that's okay. In this one, I'm going to have the absolute value of 4x plus 8 plus 6 is greater than 30. Okay. So I'm going to do this example with you guys because we're starting to run out of time and we got to keep moving. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get rid of this 6 because step 1 is to isolate this absolute value. It's currently not isolated because it's got this plus 6 with it. So we've got to get rid of it. We do the opposite of adding, which is subtracting 6 from each side. So I end up with the quantity 4x plus 8, the absolute value of the quantity 4x plus 8. And then I'm going to have is greater than 30 minus 6. 30 minus 6 is 24. Okay. Now I've isolated my absolute value. And I need to split it into its 2 equations. And to do that, I need